Hello and welcome to the Business Dashboard on City TV. My name is Bobi Osei. Coming up on today's bulletin, Parliament approves government's 2022 budget statement and economic policy after it was rejected by the House last Friday. Also, meanwhile, the minority side, which was absent in Parliament, has described the latest approval of the budget as null and void. And later on, civil society organization ActionAid calls for a renegotiation of all IMF conditionalities and the suspension of the payment of interest on Ghana's loans. All that and more coming up in the next 30 minutes. But first, Parliament has approved government's 2022 budget statement and economic policy presented to the House by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta on November 17, 2021. Now, although the budget was rejected by the House last Friday by the minority, the Majority Caucus overturned the decision on Tuesday, November 30, 2021, and approved the document. The members on the minority side were absent in Parliament. Now, the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Osei Owusu, who chaired the sitting, rubbished the purported rejection of the budget, adding that the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, erred in overseeing the exercise since there was no clear majority in the House during proceedings last Friday. Honorable Osei Chimensa-Bonsu is the majority leader, and he spoke to the media after his side approved the budget.
What we did today is to indeed recognize that something happened. But what happened really was a nullity, an illegality. So what we did today was to reinstate, so to speak, the original motion and have a properly constituted House take a vote on it. And as you have seen, the decision is that we have approved of the motion moved by the Minister responsible for finance, who, representing the President, submitted to this House the budget statement and economic policy of the government for the year ending December 31st, 2022. That, in short, is what we have done today. So, for emphasis, the budget of 2022 was never rejected by the House, and today the record has been set straight. I thank you, and thank you very much.
The minority in Parliament, meanwhile, held a separate press conference to defend the absence in the House and describe the action of the majority as null and void.
We all know, for purposes of today, that the person presiding and the speaker for today was the Honorable Joseph Osei Owusu of Bekwai as speaker. He has no business counting himself among them, and therefore, as far as we are concerned, today's vote reflected another 137 by those who respect the tenets of the Constitution and the standing orders of the Parliament of Ghana. So for the media, I repeat for your ears again, a deputy speaker or any other member presiding shall not retain his original vote whilst presiding. They chose conveniently to quote Right Honorable Do Ajaho, one of our own, and a proud one, of course. Therefore, what they said by the Honorable Do Ajaho is as relevant for their purposes because they are not 138 by the words of the Honorable Do Ajaho. We only can describe what has happened as a constitutional sham of a purported vote of a budget and economic policy statement.
Moving on, the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, has charged small and medium-sized enterprises in the country to adopt good business practices from their inception. This, according to the AGI, will enable such businesses to grow into formidable institutions in the future. The following report has more. The remarks were shared at the 10th AGI Ghana Industry and Quality Awards 2021 held over the weekend. The awards ceremony, which was organized by AGI in partnership with the Ghana Standards Authority under the theme Repositioning the Local Industry to Leverage AFCFTA, saw about 32 major sector, regional and honorary awards being given out to numerous companies. While delivering her speech, Mrs. Nora Bonaman Aboch, the chairperson of the AGI Awards Planning Committee and the CEO of Slick Garments Export Limited and Assist, noted that a lot needs to be done to bring up local businesses to international standards.
Our theme for this year, repositioning local industry to leverage AFCFTA, was carefully chosen so that we do not avert our minds to the fact that there's still a lot to be done in order to reap the benefits of the continental free trade. One of our motivations for the AGI Awards is also our quest to bring up local businesses to international standards with products and services which measure to and are competitive on the global markets. Good business practices also constitute major evaluation criteria for AGI Awards. But often small businesses disregard this in the hope of adopting good business practices only when they become mature. Adoze Shower sees this opportunity to remind our SMEs of the need to adopt good business practices from scratch, such as keeping audited accounts that are duly signed. As I keep saying, I do not think this basic requirement is too much for any business that is worth its salt.
Speaking at the same program, the Minister for Information, Honorable Kojo Nkrumah, noted that government is ready to take the needed steps to support the growth of local industries.
The world is talking about building back better after COVID, but in Ghana we're talking about building forward better. Building forward better will require industry, Ghanaian industry, to be at the forefront. And that means that the state must continue to do all that it does to stimulate domestic protection, to stimulate domestic production among yourselves. And that is why the Akufo-Addo administration continues with efforts to introduce measures that are aimed at assisting you to do better in your various industries. We're pleased to note that you are still excited about the benchmark valuation discount reversal, which we are committed to, and which we expect that in the coming weeks, when Parliament takes the vote on the budget, will be approved for your benefit. These, as I'm sure you are aware, are tough decisions, but they are necessary decisions that are aimed at ensuring that industry flourishes.
Now, a former finance minister, Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, has warned that any attempt to force Ghanaian banks to lend at lower rates, like some banks in our neighboring countries, will collapse smaller banks and may even collapse the entire banking sector. His warning follows numerous calls from stakeholders on the need for Ghanaian banks to reduce their lending rate. The following report has the details.
The former finance minister, Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, has asked governments to intervene and check the stubbornly high commercial banks' lending rates, as well as the high cost of borrowing, which continue to pose as a challenge to the business community. Currently, the Bank of Ghana's policy rate, which is the rate at which it lends to commercial banks, is 14.5%, while the lending interest rate for commercial banks in the country is around 22%. Meanwhile, neighboring countries like Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire and Togo have their lending rates at around 5.1%. According to him, the high cost of bank credits in Ghana results from the cost of servicing credits in the Ghanaian banking industry, which has also been influenced by the cost of deposits, cost of loan defaults, cost of overheads and the cost of liquidity. He has further argued that the larger banks are selling their credits at the same price as the smaller banks, even though their cost of funds are lower than the smaller banks. This, he says, is the reason for the high cost of borrowing. Stakeholders like himself have said that the issue surrounding the high cost of borrowing in the Ghanaian commercial banking industry is a daunting one whose solution requires sober and critical thinking. However, he said any attempt to force banks in Ghana to lend at lower lending rates like our neighboring countries, namely Togo, Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire, will weaken the smaller banks in particular and the entire economy. Delivering a lecture titled The Ghanaian Dream, Transforming the Economy Through the Creation of Jobs and Opportunities for All, Dr. Duffuor called for public intervention to create a level playing field in the entire bank credit markets for both the larger and smaller banks.
The central bank's policy rate impacts slightly on the cost of funds, precisely The central bank policy rate impacts slightly on the cost of deposit. It is a combination of these costs which determines the cost of funds in a bank, and not the Bank of Ghana's policy rate. The bigger commercial banks in our country have huge demand deposit accounts, of which we at times refer to as transaction accounts, on which they pay virtually no interest. The smaller commercial banks don't have huge demand deposit. They have huge time deposit and savings, on which they pay huge interest. So the larger commercial banks have lower cost of funds, and the smaller commercial banks have higher cost of funds. Now, what's happening is that we have more smaller banks than the larger banks. But because the smaller banks have high cost of funds, and the bigger ones have smaller and lower cost of funds, and the smaller banks dominate the credit market, the bigger banks sell their credit at the higher cost of the smaller banks. In other words, they enjoy lower cost of funds but sell their credit at a higher, because there are very few. Mr. Chairman, this is an issue confronting all of us. And until we have a very effective public intervention to create a level playing field in the entire bank credit market for both the larger and the smaller banks, will not enjoy a lower cost of funds in the country. By creating a level playing field for both the larger and the smaller banks, the cost of funds will go down. Any attempt to force the Ghanaian banks to lend like the neighboring countries around us will destroy the country, because it will not be practical.
You're still watching the Business Dashboard on City TV. We'll take a breather here. When we return, though, civil society organization ActionAid calls for a renegotiation of all IMF conditionalities and the suspension of the payment of interest on Ghana's loans. Details after this break.
Bethel Revival Choir presents Akbar Experience 2021, a live album recording on 3rd December 2021, Farmers Day. Venue UPSC Auditorium. Gate opens at 4 p.m. On the bill, Joe Metal, Pastor Edwin Datson, Pastor Isaiah Fosikwachi Jr., Pastor Jennifer Kofi, Pastor Helen Yorson, Akasi Brimpong, Eugene Zuta, Mauta Tete, Gospel Artist of the Year Togo, and many more. Rate 30 cities single, 50 cities double, and 100 cities for VIP. Tickets are available at myticketghana.com, Airport Shell, CTFM, and Global Evangelical Church, Kotobabi, or call the hotline now, 0544 222 154, 0544 222-154. See you there. Hold on, yo. Powered by City TV, supported by City 97.3 FM.
You're welcome back. Now, civil society organization ActionAid is calling on the government to renegotiate all IMF conditionalities and the suspension of the payment of interest on Ghana's loans. Now, the CSO says the call has become necessary to enable government raise the needed revenue to ensure it is able to prosecute its development agenda.
ActionAid argues that the Finance Ministry must renegotiate the terms of the International Monetary Fund (IMF) in the country to be able to meet the increasing need for the critical workforce required in the public sector, especially in education and health. The absence of critical workforce is severely affecting the delivery of quality public services. As part of the IMF-sponsored fiscal consolidation program launched in 2015, the government accepted the key program conditionality of public sector wage rationalization policy to contain and reduce the wage bill. This included the government implementing a hiring freeze across most government agencies and the cap on nominal wage increases. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of a report launched by ActionAid titled The Public versus Austerity, Margaret Brew-Ward, acting head of programs for the CSO in Ghana, stressed the relevance of their call.
Governments spend more on interest payments and debt servicing than invest in education and health. And when it comes to education and health, these are key public services that are needed by women and persons living to bring about transformation in their lives. Provision of education, for instance, provision of child care centers will relieve women of the burden of child care work, and will have enough time to engage in economic activity.
Associate Professor of Economics at the University of Ghana, Professor Eric Oseasibi, further emphasized that the government must find ways to improve upon its revenues to address the challenge.
How do we fiscally consolidate? It will mean that government has to, over time, reduce the fiscal deficits, and how that government reduce the fiscal deficit will mean that government has to, find smarter way of increasing tax revenue, right? Because the revenue yield has to increase, has to widen the tax base, has to ensure that a lot more of our people pay tax. We said that we need to expand tax nets into the informal sector. The reason being that the informal sector forms about 80 to 85% of our economic activity, and many of them do not pay tax.
Madame Ward-Brew stressed that government must take stringent measures to address the growing concern.
We are saying that it is time to end austerity measures. In this COVID era, we encourage our Minister of Finance and all African Ministers of Finance to come together and renegotiate the terms of IMF conditionalities. In the short term, suspend interest payments. In the medium to long term, reschedule all these interest payments and debt servicing so that they will get the needed resources to engage more public sector workers, invest more in public services to provide the quality public services needed in this country and other African countries.
Now, as part of efforts to reward its customers for their loyalty to the brand, telecommunications giant MTN Ghana has presented 20 Hyundai Sonata Saloon cars in its mega 25th anniversary promotion. Now, the MTN at 25 promo, which started in August of 2021, rewarded customers with a lot of prizes, including brand new 2021 Hyundai Sonata vehicles, cash reward, and loads of airtime for 24,000 customers. The following report tells us more.
And this one goes to Mr. Justice Arthur Sarkodie from Bono region. OCA with his white handkerchief. Thank God you don't have a powder.
MTN launched its 25th anniversary mega consumer promotion in August to reward customers for their significant contribution to the success of the company. The MTN at 25 promo was based on usage, where participants accrued points by making calls, using data, sending SMS, subscribing to digital services, and performing mobile money transactions where fees are charged. The 3-month promotion, which ended in October, rewarded 24,000 customers from all regions customers in Ghana with a total of 25 brand new 2021 Hyundai Sonata vehicles, cash rewards up to 5,000 Ghana cedis, and loads of airtime. 5 out of the vehicles were awarded to the first batch of lucky winners in October, and the final presentation was done on Tuesday with 20 customers of MTN driving away their brand new vehicles. The winners could not hide their excitement. Some of them spoke to City Business News.
If says some more promotion yeah, and my mom fan say normal thing because you good pan. First, na me need GD wo ye ba me nua no e kan ye na me de me rehye mo no a happy thing e manage pan ti bibi say si aye so mo so de omo ho hyem obi de no ho hyem na ni ache pa.
When they called me, I wasn't sure. Yeah, I even told the lady, no, are you sure you are not one of the scammers? I just said, no, I should check the contact very well. In fact, to all the MTN customers out there, I think anytime there's promotion going on, we should all take part. It's a luck. It's a luck. You can get it. Myself, I didn't believe it. But today, I am sure. Even when I came here this morning, I still thought I was dreaming.
The senior manager for consumer marketing at MTN, Nana Santwa Amegashi, disclosed that there's more to come for MTN customers.
It's something that we've been doing over the years. Every year, Christmas, we give away, we reward and recognize our customers. We appreciate the fact that they've been with us throughout the year. And so we give them different goodies that come their way at Christmas time. So definitely, they should look out for more coming this Christmas.
The Chief Marketing Officer, Noel Kojo-Ganson, at the final prize presentation event, reiterated the caution to all its esteemed customers to guard against fraudsters who may pose as middlemen working on MTN giveaways.
Please let me take this opportunity once again to remind people to ignore calls from any strangers who are purporting to be calling from MTN with strange numbers and asking customers to go to some Momo agents who would ask them to send money, airtime, etc. to redeem price. MTN will only call you with our official number 0244 300,000. And I repeat, 0244 300,000. And we will present your winning prize in an MTN branch with a public event like this. Please be alert, look sharp, don't get carried away with any fake promises.
You're still watching the Business Dashboard on City TV. We are taking a breather. When we return, we'll bring you more.
This festive, choose joyful time.
Let's do this. Let's get this done.
Anytime.
So good.
Choose fist pumping.
I got the heat.
Heart thumping.
I feel nice.
Choose drama for days. And your stories.
So nice.
Choose everything. Choose joy and enjoy every moment together with DSTV.
You're welcome back. Now, the Central Regional Minister, Justina Marigold Assan, says that 37th Farmers' Day celebration being hosted by the ancient capital has boosted economic activities in Cape Coast. She maintained that the program, coupled with some developmental projects ongoing in the metropolis, has impacted positively on businesses. Now, the Central Regional Minister hoped more of such programs will be organized in the region to uplift the image of the Central region. She was speaking to the media at a cocktail fair organized for some selected farmers attending the 37th Farmers' Day celebration in Cape Coast.
It's really adding something to the local economy. You could see that all hotels in the region have been booked, fully booked. As we speak here, I'm looking for 1 or 2 rooms for some MMDCs who just joined. We cannot get rooms for them because everywhere is booked. And then when we're talking about those women who are cooking on the roadside, go to the town and see those preparing tilapia, rice, everything. People are buying them. So that is the impact we wanted to feel. And it is right here. People are really making business. Even pure water business is also booming because the sun is there, you will drink water, you drink minerals and everything. So the economy itself is moving very well. And even hosting it has also opened up, even where we had the program, you could see the developmental or the development around that area. We've been able to put us, but I wish that we'll have such programs in the region. I pray that next year another mega one will be sent to the region.
Now, South Africa's rand firmed on Monday, recovering from last week's plunge to its lowest since October 2021 on concerns around the discovery of a COVID-19 variant in the country that has been described as the most concerning. Now, stock markets also recovered after hospitality shares fell sharply on the news a host of countries would bar travel from Southern Africa, hitting hopes of a bumper season for a tourism industry already hit badly by the pandemic. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange's all-share index closed 2.03% higher, with investors welcoming the news that domestic tourism remained unaffected for now. The travel and leisure index jammed 5.12% after crashing on Friday. Now, global authorities reacted with alarm on Friday to the new variant Omicron, which was detected in Southern Africa, with the EU and Britain among those tightening border controls as scientists sought to find out if the mutation was vaccine resistant. Now, with little yet known about the new coronavirus strain, market participants remain cautious, opting not to impose further coronavirus curves. Ramaphosa said on Sunday that authorities were considering making COVID-19 shots compulsory for certain places and activities as a rise in infections linked to a new variant threatened to become a fourth wave. And this is where we bring down the curtains on today's edition of the Business Dashboard here on City TV. Do remember that our website, citybusinessnews.com, has more information on our top stories and more. Subscribe to CityTube on YouTube for more exclusive video content from City TV. Download the City Newsroom app on the Google Play Store or the App Store and keep updated on the go. You can also watch City TV on DSTV channel 363 and GoTV channel 182. My name is Bobby Osei. Many thanks for watching.